Meg Whitman has disappeared.
Excuse me, hold on. In Megan?
Meg Jepchirchir Whitman.
Okay.
Correction. Notice even the statement that came from the US Embassy, it did not have Meg Whitman's name. Meg has totally disappeared, and I will not be surprised if our calls of Meg Whitman must go.
But she's disappeared because people said they wanted to be. They clearly told her like where went on next. But remember, she's the one who, together with the IMF, who came with a report that there was gonna be a little bit of
austerity.
No, he gets it. He gets it. He totally gets it. He's just telling you what he's doing. F you on the horse you already know.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. Because what can you do about it?
And then, my theory also is that I think he owes a lot of people money. Simnajua, like these guys, these flamboyant guys.
Engineer.
Our wanauza, like our watu mtani wanauza drugs. The flamboyant guys, but then kuna masters wao pahali huko juu where they have to deliver the money.
Suppliers.
So sometimes they make the money, and instead of going back to pay their suppliers, they buy lavish stuff na nini. So I think that's where he is right now. He's been cornered. There's some masters out there who we don't know.
The puppet master doesn't care
who he owes. Yeah, they're like, boss, like we invested so much in you. You better pay us our money, because look at how America invested. Remember, why do you think the president started a new narrative accusing the Ford Foundation earlier in the week of sponsoring the demos? Because they actually, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs actually wrote to the Ford Foundation, listing, like the different organizations that
they have given money to their grants, actually, I think for different projects.
Yeah, for different projects.
That are managing different developmental related projects.
Right? Because the thing is this, a lot of the people who are offering support, Law Society of Kenya, Boni's NGO, Alan Namu's
African Center.
Yeah, and then we have the medic one that is giving all of
free
this
medical.
Yeah, so all of these organizations, NGOs, are recipients of grants, right?
From Ford Foundation.
And they're not hiding that they're recipients. It's not secret.
Yeah.
And the thing about this grants is that when you get these grants, you have to also show how you're using that money for it, right?
Yes, you apply for the grant for developmental related things.
So for him, this is one of those PR moves. Hata inatoka CPR is sasa ni the dirty side of PR. Inatoka perception management.
Smear campaign.
Yes. So you and governments and multinationals pay people a lot of money for perception management to paint a certain picture on how things are supposed to look like. Now the thing is,
so you tell a certain story.
Yes. So the thing is, remember they started with what? Remember when the first time they started, what did they say? Foreign? We have foreign influence for this process to interfere in the country, right? Ule jamaa akasema Russia, right? Mwaura. The first thing Mwaura said asemani Russia, right? Asemani Russia. Right? So that foreign hand has always been put there. They're trying to say it's a coup.
Yeah.
Right? They're trying to move away from the narrative that these are demands from people who wanted corruption to be taken out, and try to paint that perception that it's a coup to get sympathy from people, and also to allow them legally to use some certain tactics in harming the people. Right? So they are trying to identify leaders, and now they've found organizations that are helping these kids when they're doing these things, and they're trying to assume that those are the leaders. So they're trying to, when they paint that, and then they think that maybe the Ford Foundation might stop funding them or might pull them back and tell them, yo, you're messing
because
up.
of the perception.
Yeah, you're messing it up for us. Pull back. And then they can try to diminish and make these protests go away. And also, so there's so many angles that they can use this to paint this kind of the picture that they want to paint. So the cool angle where they say that these guys are being paid foreign money. And remember, again, if you noticed, when they brought in Alai pushed narratives. Endo narrative ya watu wamelipwa kukos maandamano.
Yeah.
And now you find guys like kina Khalif Cairo who have influence pia wanaanza kusing the same tune in Yalene. Like you'll see strategically the people who sing strategically the same tune. Oh guys, nakwambia watu wamelipwa sijui guys sijui nini watu wamelipwa kuleta maandamano kuna watu wamelipwa to the tunes of 200 million. Iliweza kama rumor tu Twitter, then the next thing Ford Foundation ikakusemwa, then the next thing tunaanza kuona watu wakithrow the amount, and then the people are like, yeah, go to the at Ford Foundation member government nini. If you go to their website, the people who we fund are right there, and it's listed, and we vet what they do to make sure our interfere na kitu yote. Unaona? So, but to the layman, nikileta hii story kwa Twitter ka story ya Jaba, right? Nikileta ka story ya Jaba nikiambiwa si unakumkana ni Cairo alisema watu lipwa, angalia ndo hii do imekaa imeingia, se wanakanjwa. Unaona?
Then the narrative spreads.
Base narrative ikigeuka hivyo, kuna vile tunaenda maandamano na kuna wanakanjwa na si hawakanjwi.
So that was kind of like throwing red meat to see if especially the base would take bait and make it an actual
so your perception management, like so your no manage pana yezi kwa hivi. Now the thing that they forgot is that you're facing people who are not scared to open themselves up and say hii ndo donapata, hii ndo inafanya hivi na inadu hivi na inadu hivi na inadu hivi. Au base wakishikwa protest wao ulipiwa bond na wanatoka, hakuna mtu tumia hata bopi yake. Hii protest watu wakienda usiku hakuna mtu hata bopi yake,
watu wamechanga. Hizi organization zina cover nini bills zingine. But now I think the question that comes up, I think one reason why this narrative that the president tried to throw out there has not worked is because his credibility as a liar is now very solid.
It is very solid.
It's very solid.
And then they've looked for so many people to blame.
Yeah.
It's still the same thing.
So anything he says, it's taken as a lie first. It's taken as a lie first until... And by the way, that rhymes with Robert Alai. It's taken as a lie first.
But the funny thing, you remember today?
Coincidence.
You remember today when he posted that he has a press conference at 4, and people on Twitter were like, yadi huyu jamaa siku hizo wakati tu announce anakuja kuwadanganya time fulani. Like people are expecting it, like yadi tunakuja and guess what? He didn't fail. When he read his nini, people laughed it off. Everybody, like nobody was.
So I think that's a problem with the perception, and I like that the Ford Foundation did not make a big deal out of this. I mean, of course, some of these NGOs have, outside this situation, they've been accused of coming to Africa and doing certain things, pushing certain agendas. It's something that has been there before, but on this particular one, I think that whatever they've been trying to do has been falling flat. Especially these younger kids, the Gen Zs. They're not believing stuff, that you're telling them. And you see with them, they're not influenced by people like Robert Alai or by people like Dennis Itumbi. And those are the other people, these bloggers, these government bloggers, let me mention them by name. Robert Alai, Dennis Itumbi, Gordon Opio, and the multitude of government bloggers who are out there. These are the people who need to be salimiwad, because these are the people who for a long time have been enabling, or rather being, the system that allows, all these false narratives flow into the bloodstream and make people believe. So these people, they need to be cancelled. And I honestly think they also need to be salimiwad, because at this point, of course, the influence is not where it was.
But
10 years ago.
Alai aliambia watu nini? Mimi nimetukanwa for years, hata mkinitukana. I don't feel, and the thing is that true, he doesn't feel it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a paid, like.
But then the thing is this, and that is why I'm pushing for recalls, right? MCAs can be recalled too.
Well, Alai is a paid mercenary in MCA. Yeah, he's a paid mercenary. I think we have a caller. Uno Mike.
Thank you for calling.
Hey, habari zenu.
Mzuri sana. Please tell us. Tell us your name and where you're calling from, and then give us your comment.
Hey, no worries. Prof Monda here. Thanks, guys, for the show. I always follow. Really appreciate you, your hard work every week. So, well, a couple comments, right? I think, firstly, you know, I've really been struggling with the whole Gen Z movement because it's youthful, it's very visionary, it's very passionate. But sometimes youthful passion without vision can be very problematic because you want absolute solutions which are sometimes not practical. So where am I going with this? What do you guys think? We've talked a lot. I've really been following your excellent conversation. But the question is, what do we do after this? Right? What's the agenda? What's the 1, 2, 3 steps to actually see meaningful change on the ground? And my challenge, if you look at many of these social movements across the world, right? Take, for example, the Arab Spring. It started with the same zeal and fervor, but the Middle East is pretty much where it was pre-2013 when the trader in Tunisia emulated, right? He burnt himself, right? And he had all those problems. So where am I going with this? What I'm saying is there really needs to be a vision of what Gen Z want at the end of the day. And it cannot just be about people who are below 25. Because everyone is really a Gen Z. This is not something that started in 2024. This stuff started with J.M. Kariuki. This stuff started with the Mau Mau. That spirit of Gen Z is beyond 2024. So I'm thinking at the grassroots, the way they've been so ruthlessly efficient in disrupting government and holding government to account with the demonstrations in every town, at every moment, occupy, occupy, occupy. There should be a way this social youth movement can organize at the grassroots to place independent candidates. If they want to form a party, that's fine. If they still want to be a leaderless movement, that's fine. All these individuals will be identified, vetted through the movement, and will challenge each one of these politicians all the way up to the presidency. And they will sweep them out of office very, very easily because they're the majority and they're organized and they're committed. In the interim, between now and 2027, they should really be adding, this movement should really be snowballing, holding bigger questions of similar to what you guys are doing with the IMF demonstrations in Washington. Nobody's really talking about this, about the debt that Kenya is taking up. Most of our debt is actually not to the U.S., it's to China. $80 billion in debt. So this is a big problem. And if Ruto is trying to diversify the portfolio, which means remove more expensive Chinese debt and replace it with cheaper IMF debt. But the problem is that's not really solving the issue. The underlying issue is poor, bad governance. You can tax people as much as you want, but as long as that money is not being used efficiently, it's being stolen, this is not helpful. So broader conversations really need to be made about structural problems with these multilateral bodies like IMF, because they are part of the problem also. They know they are lending to corrupt government. They know that money is not leaving the U.S. It's buying apartments in D.C., buying apartments in New York, buying apartments in London, and buying apartments in Beijing. I think that's a bigger question. These youthful people really need to think about. Everybody needs to think about. I think the broader question is also, gentlemen, we need to hold these criminals to account. How is it in Kenya in 2024? Kenyans, not even just very visible. If a very highly visible reporter can be bundled in to a car and treated like rubbish, what about somebody who's not known, an 18 or 19-year-old kid? Where are we going with this? This impunity has to stop. And it not only has to stop, people need to be held to account. And this brings me to my third point. Raila Odinga, whether you support him or not, has really proved to be part of the problem. Every time there's a critical juncture for Kenya to change, Raila cuts a deal. Ruto was about to fall. Ruto desperately needed someone to bail him out. And he was looking to find a way to get either Kalonzo to come and do a deal with him or Raila to do a deal with him. If they had both refused and continued to put the pressure, Ruto would have been stuck. The donors would have refused to lend in the money. He would have had to break parliament and call for free and fair elections. But these politicians, part of the problem of why we can't get the change is the opposition is no different from the government, because they're the guys getting the $8,000 a month salary and sitting allowances and the SUVs. So they can cry and pretend, cry these crocodile tears. But believe me, Raila and Ruto are two sides of the same coin. They're all deal makers. And ultimately you will find this is a question about class and class interest. So Ruto is now in power as an elite, and elite interests are being threatened. So Ruto will call another elite, either Kalonzo or Raila. Raila was first to run and pick the bait and say, we need to settle the ship. So Raila will cut a deal with Ruto, just like he did with the handshake, which no other Kenyan participated in. We don't know what they decided with Uhuru. Just like he did with Kibaki, we don't know what they decided in 2007. Raila did the same thing with Daniel Arap Moi with NDP in 97. We don't know what they decided. And these backroom deals are what is really holding our country back. Because anytime there's a critical juncture where we're going to clean out the old guard and really bring in new ideas and people who actually want to serve public good, that baby is always miscarried. Is always miscarried because of these older generation politicians. And Raila has really, really, really dropped the ball. It's really sad that all these young people over the years who've been demonstrating for whatever social movements Raila has pushed, that this is the way he treats them. Their blood is on his hands, and he goes to shake the hand of the person who's killing and abducting them. So my broader point is, in conclusion here, unless we have systemic change, the Gen Zs really need to organize themselves at the grassroots with a view for 2027. But in the interim, every social issue that comes up, whether it's about this new bill, whether it's about now putting pressure on the next half of the cabinet, which will be reappointed, which I think you'll realize was really a deal between Ruto and Raila. So Ruto has returned his half of the team, which is essentially the team that was there before, and now the other half is given it to Raila, so Raila can nominate people from his side. I mean, it's a game that the elite and landed aristocracy, whether it's the Kenyatta aristocracy, the Ruto aristocracy, or the Odinga aristocracy, they're playing on Kenyans. And I think Kenyans really need to see beyond that. Put pressure on him in terms of his cabinet. Every public policy issue, we need to know. All these cases around grass, the billions that have been stolen, all these cases around the Auditor General, money missing at the county, money missing from the Nairobi government, money missing from the national government. Why are all these cases never pursued? Our own DP, Gachagua, He had a 400 million shilling case. When they came into power, suddenly that case disappeared, was withdrawn. So it's really, I think you can see where I'm going here.
Okay,
it's
Professor
really
Monda.
a systemic problem. It's really a systemic problem whereby the system doesn't function because you have such entrenched interests on the opposition and the government that don't want things to change.
Okay. Aya, asante sana Professor Monda. Thank you so much. Are you going to be coming to the protests tomorrow in Washington, D.C.? Or how close are you to us?
I'm in New York, so I had a previous engagement already arranged, but I was, we're having some the organizing. I've been involved with the ones in New York.
Okay, sawa. We need to connect with the New York team so that we can have a moment when DMV people come to New York and when New York people come to the DMV, because we're only 5 hours from each other. So asante sana Professor Monda, as always, very interesting points.
Right, and then the other issue also we should think about is what can we do as diasporans, right? Because imagine the capital, when you think of like when Kenyans go to support the rugby, right? The Shujaa,
yes.
That volume and capacity.
Yes.
If Kenyans in diaspora also organize themselves, and because we can do a lot, we can call our senators, we can call a lot of us as citizens, we can call our members of parliament, we can target the key members on these congressional committees, we can fundraise for, to support some of these, like that reporter, like you guys were saying. How do you just target? And she was warned. You just target the police and they just shoot her for doing her job. It's so inhuman. And then the wider other issues, Kaka Mwenyekiti, all these bodies that turn up in Shokohola, these bodies turning up in Kware, it really seems to me that there's a cartel engaged in body harvesting. There might be cults, but I really think it's more about harvesting of human organs. And this is really the ruthlessness, the mafia state that we live in Kenya. And this is worrying because, a lot of people want to retire in Kenya. So do you want to go to Kenya and be literally in a failing state? So I really think also as diaspora, when I come to DC, we should chat. We really need to organize people around here. Really.
Professor Monda, we're going to connect.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, yes, Professor Monda, I'm saying we're going to connect. And people here, I see Tabitha Njeri saying this caller is brilliant points, logically laid out, well articulated. And Slay is agreeing with Tabitha Njeri. And a point also being made by Awar is she's saying, I wish folks would log into X and listen to all the discussions the young people have been having for years. Don't sleep on X space. These people have a vision. And that's what I was going to tell you, Professor Monda, because for me personally and most of us here on the panel, we've been so engrossed with what's been happening, especially on X spaces, because these conversations are happening 24 hours a day. People are talking about minerals. People are talking about sanitary towels. People are talking about these laws the bills that are currently pending in Parliament. So there's very, very deep discussions. There's experts who are coming in, and there's people who are looking at, like some of the loopholes that are in some of these laws that these leaders are using. So it's a very confusing moment because it's a turning point. But I think, in my view, this is one of the most clear groups that I've seen with a vision, because unlike the other groups you mentioned, Professor Monda, like in Tunisia, in Egypt, in all these other countries, unlike all, the unique thing about the Kenyan situation is that all these young kids are being led by the constitution.
Yeah, and then
that is a common common focus that they have. All these other countries, they did not have a document or anything that brought a unity of purpose. And then that's one very unique thing.
Are you disappointed with Raila? I know you've known him for many years.
Yes.
Are you disappointed that he's gone for a handshake and
Deeply.
he's really part of the problem?
I am deeply disappointed. I am deeply disappointed, and I don't think, like, in as much as I've supported Raila for so many years, I don't think he's going to recover from this. So, and that's the reason why we're discussing previously. Maybe he looks at this like his last stand. Let me just benefit, like the people who are around me who had promised them this and that. But this is very deeply disappointing. I don't see, he's always been able to get himself out of those handshakes and deals that he's had before. This one, I think there's no returning from this. Like, I'm sorry to say, Mika.
Ali, another thing I wanted to tell Professor here is that you ask what is the vision that these kids have. They've clearly said what they want. Number one, they've said they want IABC to be reconstituted.
Yeah.
They want continuous registration. They don't want breaks in continuous registration. They want release of ID cards. They want to be able to get their ID cards.
Recall of MPs.
They want they want to be able to recall MPs. They want an audit of all the debt that is in the country. Mm-hmm. They want the debt to be laid open, how much is paid, what is paid, where the money is going. They want a lifestyle audit on the members of parliament and the money that has been stolen, to go after that money so that money can come back and pay the debt that is there. They've said that they want more opportunities for them, for youth. They don't want to be told they have to go to another country to go work. They don't want, they've gone to school. They want to stay in their country and help their country grow. They want opportunities to be there to work.
Right. So isn't that also essentially the problem, that both the opposition and the government, they don't want the IEBC to function well, because they'll be out of office, they'll be recalled, and that is their plane. Constantly they want to make sure they undermine IEBC, so that it's always a crisis. We are rushing to get IEBC 2 months before the election, otherwise we'll become another Rwanda. It's a very cynical, systemic ploy by, again, the elites in both the government and the opposition.
Yeah, and so that is why I felt that when you say that you feel like they look rudderless, or there's
no clarity
of vision. No, there is clarity
it's actually
of vision.
Very clear.
There is a clarity of vision of what they want.
Should have a leader
no, absolutely no, because the thing that has brought us here is leaders. It's the leaders who go. You yourself said there was a handshake that was made that nobody else was privy of what was made in that handshake.
But Professor Monda, I think this is something that we are learning. I'm sure you're also learning with what's happening right now. Is that I think these kids have been looking at all the mistakes that have been made in the past, and they don't want to repeat them. The other interesting thing about these kids is that no one has said, like, I'm looking for a political position. Because for previous generations, that's what people have been looking for, and that's why it's been easy to lure people with goodies, that we're going to give you this office, we're going to nominate you, we're going to do this. So these kids are just asking for accountability, and they just want a chance to have a shot at having, like a decent life. They're not even asking for anything lavish. They're asking for a shot at a decent life. Of all the movements that I've seen from before that I read about and that have been there through my lifetime, I have never seen so much clarity of thought like this one. And they're so consistent. When you listen to them across different platforms, be it mainstream media or be it in X spaces, they're all speaking the same language, they're all saying the same thing, and this right here, Professor Monda, might be our delivery from evil. So that's why and they've achieved so much.
I agree with your ideals. My challenge is 54 million Kenyans cannot make decisions for every little thing. That's why we have representatives, right? That's why we have a parliament, right? I mean, it's not practical to have a mass movement that's constantly leaderless. I mean, there has to be some kind of structure. Otherwise,
so at the moment,
who do you negotiate with?
At the moment, Professor Monda.
My point here is, just real quick, my point here is, gentlemen, politics is about compromise, right? It's like making mutura. You're not baking cookies. It's a messy, smelly job, it's about compromise, right? And I fear if the Gen Zs continue with, yes, their demonstrations are good, yes, ideals are good. We want it to be as white as pure snow. But I fear in the event that you don't have a structure, even foreign players, the Brits and the US and the Chinese, they're all looking and they're getting nervous because they support you philosophically, but they're also scared if they're not sure about what's going to come after.
So that's
so I don't know. I'm just throwing that as
the thing is this. So Professor Monda, this is if you listen to the conversation earlier, what we said is this. The thing is, not everybody has to be a leader, right? The thing is, it gets to a point whereby if you feel you're a leader and you have a political party and you want to lead and they're calling for elections, come, sell yourself and we will decide if we want you. But know that if we choose you, we are going to hold you accountable at certain standards. So we are not going to vote for you like it was back in the day in terms of popularity or you're buying votes or what you're doing. It's you just know that whatever has caused this election can cause another election. So it comes to a time whereby when people make demands, they don't make demands in terms of they want to be the ones who take that mantle. It's demands that come that they want the people who have the responsibility of that mantle to work along a certain guideline. So telling the Gen Zs that they have to form a political party and it has to be a political party of Gen Zs is basically telling them.
No, I'm actually just suggesting that because I know you can start with an absolute, very radical position and say Ruto must go, but then you also have to then come up with a counter offer to say, and these are our compromises.
And the compromises are there.
Politics work.
And that's what we have told you. And that's what
that's how politics works.
So Professor Monda, so Professor Monda, like before we let you go, the one thing that I will, I will quickly let you know, like with our own, because we're all learning in this process. It's not that the Gen Zs have asked for anarchy. And when we look at Parliament, for example, as currently constituted, I think all Kenyans can agree right now that Parliament is a compromised body. So as it's structured right now, it's not a representation of what the people want. And this is the fresh start.
It's a rubber stamp.
Yes, and this is the fresh start. This is the fresh start that we're having right now, and it's going step by step. With immediacy, they've already listed, things that they want within the following weeks. The problem of this dialogue, these academic dialogues, is what has got us to where we are here. So that's the reason why they're saying this, whatever we want, we are not coming up with this stuff. It is what this document that's running Kenya, the Kenyan Constitution, it's what he's saying. This is exactly what we want. So it's kind of like telling a mailman, okay, you've not been delivering mail for the last 3 weeks, please start delivering mail. That does not require compromise. That does not require negotiation.
Okay.
That does not require coming down. So it's very basic things that are being asked for. It's kind of like we are in an Uber environment, and most of the older generation are still stuck to the taxi driver who knows the streets, will tell you the history of this building, will tell you, oh, so and so stayed over here and knows this and that. But then there's this young, efficient Uber driver who will get you to a destination faster, may not know the names of the buildings. So that's the situation that we are facing right now. So are we gonna still stick to the taxi model, or are we gonna jump into an Uber to get to our destination faster? Real quick, 1 minute, Professor Monda, before we let you go.
Hey, cheers. No. I and actually, this is a question that political scientists are studying a lot around social movements. Whether it's like we're saying, Tunisia, Egypt. Remember, they had one in Thailand. Remember, they had one in where was it? In Sri Lanka, where the people overthrew the prime minister and they were swimming in his in a swimming pool in Parliament. So
yes,
people are really struggling. A lot of theorists are really struggling around this question.
Okay.
But I think ultimately, Ndugu Badawi, you need to tell your elites in the ODM, they need to allow the country to go. They need to allow new leadership. You can't just keep hijacking parties, making parties, and being an elite and trying to control everything. They need to allow fresh spirit of ideas.
Professor
Whether
Monda.
old or young.
Yes,
Let's
Professor
move on.
Monda. These
And you know
parties.
what I love with Kenya is we are such a model for the region. This would never happen in Rwanda or Tanzania or Uganda. So it's shaking the whole continent.
Okay. Asante sana, Professor Monda. Thank you so much.
What I wanted to say was this.
Go ahead.
I think there's so much. You provided a very good analogy, because at some point Nokia was the thing.
Yeah.
But they were caught sleeping and they were taken over. And they had to adjust accordingly. Right? And when they adjusted, they didn't adjust.
They didn't.
Wakafanya nini? Wakawachwa. I'm with Miko on this one. Who is saying that? Fine, you may have leaders or you have people who may point. Does not necessarily make them leaders. They may be like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to kutana here, whatever. Does not make them until those are the guys you can go to, and they're the ones who are really directing traffic per se.
Yeah.
But it's not, and I think that is the notion, like okay, you have to have a leader. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You know, and this organization, this Gen Z movement, it's not. I would call it. I know it's called leaderless, but I would call it leaderful. You know, for every little, like X space they have, there's someone who's hosting. For every tasks they have, where you need, like someone to lead you through this task, they have people. They have people who are organizing fundraisers. They have fundraisers for people who are hurt or people who've been killed in the process. They have people who are organizing legal help. They have leadership in that aspect. They have people who are doing so many different things here and there, and it's working like a very well-oiled machine. I think the problem that the older generation is experiencing, it's an Uber. Uko na mtu wako wa taxi. Uko na mtu wako wa taxi. He knows the city. He knows everywhere. Like he knows even who's cheating on who, based on the customers that is picking up and dropping off and what time. But then now there's this new young Uber driver who fortunately can get you to a destination faster at a much cheaper rate.
An affordable rate.
An affordable rate, a more comfortable car. So I think that's just a difficulty. Number of comments here were coming. Washeke says the young people have a vision and they're using the Constitution as a guide and reference. They are very focused and are armed with facts.
Goes to
very
what you
true.
said, yeah.
Our report says
Joanna, our report.
Yeah, in the diaspora, we have put out calls to action to each legislators. A civic engaged Kenyan diaspora is a must. Tomorrow is the opportune time for the Kenyan diaspora to show up. Let me pause, cause as easy as people gather for day parties, DJ curated events, concerts, rugby, way. And then Gerald Oliech says, I feel sorry for any Kenyan who still supported Raila, especially after handshake. Guys, we learned history in KCSE. History never repeats itself. People do. And Washeke says, the professor needs to tune in to one of the X spaces and his questions will be answered. Awar says, that's why other generations are struggling with a leaderless approach and want to devalue this. I'm catching fatigue. The Gen Z want leaders who have integrity. Gerald Oliech says, Professor, please, politics is our problem. When will we understand this? We need to run in and with policy. Politics should be the last sideshow. Washeke says, why is the older generation fixated on the movement having a leader? Awar, because they cannot see the vision. They love the status quo. Kenyan Jui, the villagers have come out to stone the snake, and the snake now demands to know, who is your leader? The villagers respond and say, we are leaderless, but we all agree that we want you gone and dead. Very good from Kenyan Jui Apo. Gerald says, now that his policy well and articulated and profoundly explained, let the mailman deliver the mail. And then Eva says, Kenyans
have compromised, trusted, and accepted nonsense for too long. Kenyans are tired. Drastic change all around is required now and also at the polls. Yes.
The harsh one.
And then Washeke says they even have people organizing food for those in hospitals. Awara Sema Amkeni Kumekucha, get with the program, adjust and open your mind. Eda Eva says the push to identify leaders within the Gen Z by the government seems like a move to be able to manipulate and instill fear to hash out and stop the protest so they can get back to feeding
100%
themselves. And then again, I want to remind the listeners that you are tuned in to the One Mic Show, and I'm your co-host and producer Ali Badawi. We're of course talking to Professor Monda earlier. We're talking about Azimio leaders Raila Odinga's move to sanitize Ruto in exchange for cabinet positions for his coalition. I have the regular panel with me, Mr. One Mic sports anchor Mika Och and resident DJ Omosh Fire. Time is really running out, but we're shortly going to be talking about the damage in President Ruto's carefully crafted international reputation. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking about that as we try to wrap up. Our lines are open, 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Feel free to call in. Of course, remember, protests tomorrow at IMF HQ2 at 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's going to be Saturday, July the 20th, tomorrow, 12:30 to 3:30. I checked the weather. The weather is going to be awesome. It's not going to be as hot as it has been the previous weeks. It's going to be in the 70s. I'm part of the organizing team. I can see Awar here. Awar has also been working so hard, diligently. I'm even surprised she has time to, come and tune into the One Mic Show because she's been working diligently to prepare for the protest tomorrow. The protest basically is going to be a demand that the IMF bear responsibility for the 50+ deaths following the demos to reject the IMF-inspired Kenyan Finance Bill of 2024. Of course, Washeke had already declared before that anyone in this panel who does not show up will be fined. Washeke will be telling us that fine, and I will be collecting it. So, and those are just the rules. So you have a choice.
Kwani democracy.
Yeah, you have a choice. No. There's no democracy. There's no leaderless. It's leaderless.
But then why are you collecting?
It's leaderless. It's a task. That's a task.
That's a leader.
That's a task.
That's leading.
No, it's a task.
You're leading the polls.
We are leaderful.
How is he a bazaar who doesn't have portfolio?
Exactly.
Bazaar being a portfolio.
So just know you're gonna get fined if you don't show up for this protest. So anyone who's within 5 hours of the DMV, please drive down to the IMF. We're going to be singing. We're going to be having a good time, 12:30 to 3:30. And this is how we will start mobilizing. Because even in the diaspora, we have to organize ourselves. Because if we don't organize ourselves, tutapangwa na wengine. So yeah. So now, here's the deal. Let me read a couple of more comments here before I forget them. I can see Kenyan Jew is saying nice show, guys, and then Steve Batty says good luck tomorrow, everyone. And then Awar says I have a ride. I am coming with Omosh. So Omosh has already been designated as an attendee and as a driver. So you have no choice, and organizers are arriving there early. So you better wake up. You better wake up.
Wewe na Awar amutaniwekea hizi pressures.
You better wake up early enough.
Plus sheke, sijui I am a democracy of me.
You better wake up early enough. You will finance those Maldives trips.
I'm not boarding.
But now here's the other thing. There was an article on
utenda ku demonstrate, and I know how I'll make you go.
There was an article. There was an article on the Financial Times. The Financial Times is an international a finance newspaper that talks about a lot international finance. And this was in the editorial section, an article about William Ruto. And I'm just going to read for you the introduction. You can Google this article. It says, in May, William Ruto, Kenya's president, was being feted by the White House at a glittering gala dinner hosted by Joe Biden in the first state visit by an African leader to the U.S. In 16 years. By July, Washington's favorite dinner guest was facing a popular revolt at home. He fired his cabinet
and jettisoned a tax-raising legislation after nationwide protests culminated in the storming of parliament. So this article basically was a takedown of President Ruto on the international stage. Because, you know, what happens with such publications, there's Wall Street Journal, which is an American publication, and then there's the Financial Times. This is where billionaires and institutional investors get their signals from. You know, like, this is where they talk to each other. And they kind of tell each other, hey, by the way, unaona kule Kenya, kumewaka moto. So this right here was a signal to investors, because this is what they read. In fact, even you know, like, I had to consult my millionaire career expert friend Tabitha to get access to this article. You had to pay $79 a month to read these articles, and me, I was like, it was such a juicy article. Hey, but me, I was like, pay what, $79 a month? Hakuna njia nitasoma hii article. So the reason why it's so expensive, it's because it's very rich people it's mostly very rich people who read this publication. So
Tabitha is
invest
rich.
a lot of money.
That's why he said he's a millionaire friend. He said it. He's a millionaire friend.
Yuko huko. Yeah, she's there.
Akombele kamfuga shati.
Yuko humble lakini yuko huko.
What, Tabitha?
Yeah. But so
Maldives onge. Maldives.
So courtesy of her, I was able to read this article, and it was a total takedown, because that carefully crafted international image. Remember how Ruto was traveling all the time. This is the first time since he became president, he has stayed in Kenya for more than 4 weeks. I think even for more than 3 weeks. This is the first time. He's been traveling for 20 months. I think he's traveled to more than 60 destinations.
Yes.
Walikuwa nasema, alikuwa naambianga pilot, hatu usizime, kuna mataka naenda.
Wacha gari saa tulimwaribia.
Wacha kiguruma, kuna mataka naenda.
Yes, he could not go for the swearing in of Cyril Ramaphosa. Tulimwaribia. There was a NATO summit here in DC, and of course he would have been the Castar, our new NATO ally.
Yeah, he was gonna be like introduce you kwa watu.
Akipiga ka speech nini.
Unajua Kenville dem kwa maboy.
Basi hivyo.
Kwa hiyo design.
Ndio hivyo sasa.
Mpeleka na maboy ya kwanza. Unaboys wa approve ndio huyu mama.
Yani
watu wake.
But now you see that carefully crafted international image, you know, like where he was getting kudos everywhere, state visit America, it fell apart like Amalinze the cat in Chinua Achebe's book. Yani ilianguka flat.
Slayer juu ya Malinze.
Slayer juu ya Malinze the cat. She needs to read Things Fall Apart. It totally fell apart. I mean, right now, I don't think there's any international leader who wants to touch William Ruto.
No, hakuna. Because
you touch him, you will be turned to dust. In fact, I think even America right now,
best yake ni Meg Whitman peke.
Now, notice Meg Whitman has disappeared.
Excuse me, hold on. In Megan?
Meg Jepchirchir Whitman.
Okay.
Notice,
correction.
Notice even the statement that came from the US Embassy, it did not have Meg Whitman's name. Meg has totally disappeared, and I will not be surprised if our calls of Meg Whitman must go.
But she's disappeared because people said they wanted to be. They clearly told her like where we go next. But remember, she's the one who, together with the IMF, who came with a report that there's gonna be a little bit of
austerity.
There's gonna be a little bit of maandamano, but then it's gonna be fine. It's
a pita too.
And I remember she was the first one to declare the elections.
Yeah, she was the first one to declare the elections free and fair. Yeah. And she was a brand new ambassador at that time. No diplomatic experience.
Alabaka put travel restrictions to Kisumu.
And then kumekuwa na scandal embassy ya visas. KTN did an expose. And then, you know, like Kenyans, they've been delaying visas for Kenyans in that embassy. Unaambiwa ati sijui appointment iko sijui next year. And a lot of people who go apply are denied without any legit reasons. So I think this is an issue that Gen Zs need to look into, because that embassy in Nairobi has fleeced so many Kenyans. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed, because now Ruto's image globally, and this is the problem with our leaders, they do not negotiate on our behalf. All these silly agreements they've been negotiating. First of all, how come Kenyans, they did not negotiate for Kenyans to get 10-year visas like Rwanda has? Yeah, we don't have 10-year visas.
No, NATO ally. Oh, carry on, sorry.
Yeah.
Let me not trigger you.
Yeah, now you see, and whenever negotiating, because the other place that I think Gen Zs need to look into, and we need to go into these spaces, is foreign policy. Because foreign policy determines so many things. Unfortunately, because diplomatic postings are those spaces that are not visible to Kenyans back home, this is where all failures are sent. This is where people who lost elections, this is where girlfriends, this is where, you know, like all kinds of people who are being paid get sent. No. I mean, this is the season for revelation.
But
This is the season for revelation.
But Ali,
Yeah.
girlfriends and boyfriends.
And boyfriends
You have to
too.
be you have to
Yes.
be equal.
Yes,
just in
fair
case.
enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Kindly moving on.
Girlfriends and boyfriends, and that's the reason why we have, and it's not like we don't have qualified people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but the people they send out as leaders, like even when you talk to them, unagundua kwamba wao ni vichwa yai, you know, like they have nothing in their heads.
Tuliambo tuko na ule jamaa kwa Atlanta na diaspora nani?
Almost tell us more about him. Wendo likuwa huko.
Hata nimesahau ule
Mshaijua ni nani?
No,
No, they don't know who he
forgot.
is.
There was a name that was tulitajwa. There was a name that we were given. There
There's
was
a diaspora
rep.
liaison,
Yeah,
something,
diaspora
right?
liaison or something.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
There's that one, but you remember you
With-
guys when we went for the dinner with champions with Wahome Wilson? We knew that. That's when we found out there was a Kenya diaspora.
That's the one. The
The
diaspora.
ladies.
No, the lady
No,
was
the
no, the
ladies
ladies.
were- the ladies
that is
were- was it
different.
Tembea
Ule ni wa
Kenya?
Tembea Kenya. That's
Was it
no, the
Tembea
ladies
Kenya?
Tembea Kenya.
No,
Tembea Kenya.
Magical Kenya.
Magical Kenya.
Yeah.
No, Magical Kenya is totally different.
That's totally different,
Magical
yeah.
Kenya, all the kazi yao ni kuuza Kenya.
But you know, our to a diaspora, me, I'm okay, you know, because I think as diaspora instruments were abused, it's the people who are in foreign policy. Foreign policy, you're discussing with people from the office of the U.S. Trade Representative. These guys have years of experience in WTO. Some of them have experience in Kenya. Some of them have experience. And the people who are coming on the other side to negotiate, they don't even know what they're negotiating about. You know, so whatever they're given, they accept. And that's the reason, you know, why when you look at a lot of deals that we get, they're very skewed. Unakuta kuna certain clauses, you're like, how did they accept this? So I think that's another space that needs to be looked into, foreign affairs, because that's where a lot of failures are sent.
I think Professor Monde is about to trigger you if you read the comment.
Haiti.
Haiti.
Okay, so Professor Monda says Haiti is a mess. Why are we doing the U.S. regional hegemonic imperialism on the cheap? What is WSR's cut on this mission? This was a cash deal. This Haiti, it was a cash deal. Dan Foote, who was a former U.S. envoy to Haiti, revealed that this was an idea that was actually pushed by Meg Whitman. This was an idea. Remember, Meg Whitman doesn't have any geopolitical experience, doesn't have any diplomatic experience, and that's why, you know, people like Dan Foote had to pull out from the process. They were like, I mean, what kind of deal is this? I mean, of course, America does not want the image of U.S. troops, you know, like working boots on the ground in Haiti. At this point, U.S. doesn't want any of that. So they figured that the best thing to do is to find a blackface to perform this mission. And as you could see, Kenyans, the Kenyan police there, they are protecting the U.S. embassy. They're protecting Western assets, basically. That's the reason why they're there. And I think we're gonna invite, you know, like one of the Haitian ladies who is a radio presenter who came to one of our protests. We're gonna invite her to studio so that we can hear about this from Haitians' perspective.
I would also vote for Professor Monda to come to the studio when he's in DC.
Yes, Professor Monda, tell us when you're gonna
We're
be
not
in
doing
DC.
Zoom. We're not doing Zoom.
Hakuna ya Zoom. Wewe lazima
Hapo
ukute hapa.
tumekataa.
Yeah.
Live and direct, yes.
Yeah,
But
live and direct, Professor Monda.
It would be good to have
Yeah.
her on board.
Yeah, because there's so much. So basically, you know, like just going back to what we're talking about, Ruto's
reputation international, and I think that's why there's so much anger from their side, because I think they spent so much time, money, and effort in building this, and it has come crumbling down. Because even if they survive these protests, they will move forward with zero credibility. Even with the Nusumkate cabinet that is going to be created, that's going to be even worse, because now the few people who still support you are going to be pissed that sasa umeleta watu wa Nusumkate huku, and they might join the Gen Z protests.
Ali, here's the thing. Again, and I think if you guys recall the roundtable that he had, not a roundtable, but they call the interview he had when he had with Joe Ageo, Linus, or is it Linus Kaikai?
Linus
Kaikai.
And
Eric Latif.
Yeah.
And Eric Latif, I think, summed it very well when he said, when they conducted a survey and sampling of the questions, and most of the questions or the summations were that he was tone deaf. He is still tone deaf.
Or maybe ni kiburi tu.
Tone deaf.
Wow. No. Tone deaf.
I
tone deaf ni understand.
And sometimes, but also
tone deaf nearly like you're not getting the tone of something, right? You have some, you're hearing but don't understand. Iyake ni kiburi. Is it tone deaf? But iyake ni basically ni mutadu, like basically mutadu.
Yani ametupea middle finger.
Yeah, like it's because guess what? We cannot use the excuse of tone deaf mpaka sahi. No. From the lies, from the manipulation, from the spin they're trying to spin right now. I tend
to agree with Mika on this one.
Like
the interview with the shooting of the boy.
Yeah,
and his answer. Just think of that answer.
The lies, right? The lies that I'll do this and not do this. The falling back on his word that he fires then rehires, right? The abductions, the killings, the manipulation, right? The perceptions that he's trying to paint out.
Oh, absolutely.
That is not tone deaf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hiyo si tone deaf. Hiyo ni kiburi.
And then remember, in that interview with Kina Kaikai, he was saying, like after all experts and all Kenyans have expressed their reservations with that bill, he was saying that Kenyans have missed out big time on whatever. So he was still insisting that this bill is good for Kenyans.
And again, and that's why I was saying, fine, I'll move from tone deaf to kiburi, but still he does not get it.
No, he gets it.
No, he gets it. He gets it. He totally gets it.
He's just telling what he's doing.
F you and the horse you already know.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. Because what can you do about it?
And then, my theory also is that I think he owes a lot of people money. Simnajua, like these guys, these flamboyant guys. Engineer. Our wanauza, like our watu mtani wanauza drugs. The flamboyant guys, but then kuna masters wao pahali huko juu where they have to deliver the money.
Suppliers.
So sometimes they make the money, and instead of going back to pay their suppliers, they buy lavish stuff na nini. So I think that's where he is right now. He's been cornered. There's some masters out there who we don't know.
The puppet master doesn't care
who he owes. Yeah, they're like, boss, like we invested so much in you. You better pay us our money, because look at how America invested. Remember, a state visit is America's highest expression of soft power. When they go all out to give you a state visit, you have to pay back. Like you must pay back. When you look at all those raft of items that America wanted, and this is out there on plain sight on the White House website, and those are what they've listed. Then there are those secret ones. These guys were fully vested in having this guy 2 times, maybe even more, but now this is falling apart. So uko on the side, I'm sure diplomats have back circles. I'm sure uko wanamgonga na chuma wanamwambia wewe tulikusaidia
so it's
lazima unini. So he's cornered.
So ni kama dem flies you out, Vegas. All expenses, all expenses.
Flies you out, or Amadem flies you out?
The mama flies you out. Yeah, I'm playing reverse. Mama flies you out.
Yeah.
Fully expense play. You can pay the travel.
Yeah.
Unakaa pale ile hotel ile Murwa huko ni Vegas. Bellagio.
Water fountain. View ya water fountain.
Yeah. Presidential suite of view. You of course at some point you'll be like
bana dem amekufly out amekupeleka Vegas alafu mnaenda kwa bar unakutana na maboys wanakwambia unaekwaje na dem Vegas alafu unaenda kujaribu kumwambia unajua wacha nikakae na maboy anakwambia wewe unafikiri nilikuleta huko nataka kucheza dice.
I rest my case.
Wacha hata kukana maboy.
I rest my case.
Wacha hata kukana maboy. Unaona maslay queens wengine hapo kando ambao wamejipa zaidi wote mamekuleta.
Wacha na slay quiz. Wewe umeletwa. Umejua mabakwanyiwa nini? Unaenda kumwambia ati wacha nikacheze golf. Kucheza golf maifu.
Hapa si kama kuna experience. Hapa mika ni authoritatively.
That was your experience.
Amba ameobserve.
No. Wala jaribu nikwambie kitu mimi leo kitu yenye sitakubali ni watu kujaribu kuwaitwa Shuruto. Hapana. Ruto has a trap na tuseme tu kweli vile iko man. Yuko in a situation whereby he has to swing what he promised he will swing. So atisijura jaribu ati nimeitwa huko kando acha nikake kwa kikundi. Hakuna cha kwenda kwa kikundi likuleta huko. Fanya vile kuleta huku.
Sasa kwa hivyo hiyo kukaa kando ni kama Ruto kusema okay ninasurrender I will step down.
Hata siku step hata tukufuta watu kufanya nini like you know every concession he has made he's pulled back.
Yes.
There is nothing that he's actually
gone back on his word.
He's gone back on his word.
Yes.
Even his campaign promises.
Yes. So everything
he has not fulfilled.
Kuna kitu yote. So unaona unasema hapo ndo umekutana na maboys kwamba tukacheze golf. Ukaenda kuomba ruhusa ucheze golf unaambia ucheze golf kitu gani? Umejamoni sema hii kitu utapromise utanifanyia hivi na hivi nikalipa trip tukuje Vegas deliver.
Nyewe kama umekuwa Bellagio alafu kwa hotel iko na view ya water fountain itabidi utiamri and that's a situation that Ruto is in. he's basically a bitch of the international puppeteers.
Perfectly.
He is and I think right now he's been cornered, so I think he has masters internationally and domestically because there are so many people because these guys ambao waliwatoa kwa cabinet mbona anawarudisha tena. They have something on him. He's compromised.
But could also be there on a certain mission because if you look at the ones who were returned, the key players, it's not like they strayed. They were put back where they were.
Now with Duale, now this is on X. I had this on X. I'm not saying this is factual. There was a bill and I'm yet to see the bill. So this is something that I need to go verify.
Ilikuwa kwa deal. The latest trip that was here. There was money that was given in exchange for refugee resettlement.
Kenya to accept a refugee resettlement.
2 million. Hiyo vile umesema kwa ni za White House and iko hapo. There was kwa zile benefits hata government ili they shared them wakijitetea bei ya ndege. Hiyo that is there. That the money is there. Now, I don't know if Duale is the one who's supposed to facilitate that, but then Duale, remember,
which refugees are we talking about?
So it just says refugees, but now you see where Duale comes in.
Where Duale comes in is
now most of the refugees we have in Kenya. Most of the refugees we have in Kenya are Somalis. So now, once these refugees are resettled in Kenya, guess what? They're gonna get IDs. And once they get IDs, they're going to get voters cards.
They're voters.
And once they get voters cards, now guess where the votes are going?
The person who
exactly.
brought them in.
Yeah. So
took them out of camps.
I personally, I fully support the idea of resettling refugees. That's just a personal thing. Mm-hmm. But now the problem with this deal, it's a cash deal to get something out of it.
But it shouldn't be done based upon politics. It's humanitarian.
It's humanitarian, but now with these guys,
why should it be paid for? That's the thing.
No, but that's why I said it should not be political. This thing should be.
It should be humanitarian.
Because these chaps have been here.
Because you know why America is paying for it. America is paying for it because the other place these refugees would be coming is the US.
Yeah.
Remember
yes,
before
because they had been taken out based upon, or they were accepted based upon.
Remember
certain
before,
agreements.
remember
Yeah.
in the UK before Rishi Sunak lost this recent election to Labour, the UK had a deal with Rwanda, where they paid Rwanda, and Rwanda built this, I think, hotels or apartments where they were going to settle all these refugees from the UK.
Correct.
But now, guess what happened? The Conservatives lost the election, and then this new PM that came in said that this deal is not going through. Then when they went back to Rwanda kuambia, okay, hii deal imeenda hivyo, ni turudisheni pesa, Rwanda akasema hakuna, goods once sold are not returned.
No, me agree with Rwanda.
Yeah, and me agree with Rwanda.
We spent our money. You spent the money on infrastructure and all of these things, and setting these things up and a whole department and everything.
Rwanda is a breach deal. Rwanda ijasema refugees wasikuje. Rwanda imekuchukua pesa. Kuambia mkitaka leteni refugees. Msitaka
Mwende.
Hiyo ni shauri yenu, nyinyi mkajipange huko.
And then the thing ukiangalia sisi Kenya, the thing with the refugees is that we have the biggest refugee camp
in the world.
In the world, right?
Yes.
I don't know about in the world.
It's in the world.
But at least I know in Africa.
Yeah.
It's in the world.
I know at least in Africa. I don't know about the
world.
Na hiyo refugee camp iko kwa nani? Iko wapi?
There's multiple refugee camps.
No, the Dab is the biggest one.
Yes.
Yeah. Iko wapi?
Iko Garissa.
Yes.
Kakuma iko wapi?
Kakuma si iko side gani? Iko Rift Valley, iko Turkana.
Yeah, but what demographic of people does it have?
No, there's a mix of people.
There's kuna Sudan, kuna Somali pia. Kwa hizo kwa Kakuma ni.
Kakuma, I would not know. I know that Dab, the biggest number is Somali refugees.
But hata Kakuma pia.
Okay,
remember Kakuma ilitengenezwa first for Somali. Au wengine walikuja later.
Walikuja baadaye, yeah. Cause Dadaab ilikuwa imejaa. Yeah.
So there is some they try to put the Al-Shabaab angle, and because in Somali and as a protect your border, northern border, but then let's be realistic. That is one of the biggest trade magendo inafanyika kwa hiyo border, like kile makaa na sukari yenye inapitaka kwa hiyo ikipita hivi kifanyo kiuzu. It's so much that to a point whereby a politician over there, you just give the clansmen over more say to control the magendo, and they will do whatever you want to do. So even Vilali anasema controlling the voting is going to be quite easy.
Yeah.
It's just going to be making somebody powerful from there, and now apigi watu whips naambia wafanye hivi. So again, kina Duale, kina nani, ni zile mapati zile za ODM, zile za haraka zenye zili fold.
In fact, mtu kama Faramalim alikuwa WDA, walikuwa Wiper.
Yeah, Wiper.
Yeah, alikuwa Wiper, but sasa hata amechujwa Wiper.
But ukiangalia hizo za nini, zilikuwa za Azimio.
Yeah, zilikuwa za Azimio, but they were the first ones.
They were the first ones to switch.
They were the first ones to switch before even nini.
So Fute Duale umepoteza
kuna big voting block, and me, I'm telling like
parliament.
I'm telling my people from Mandera, Garissa and Wajir counties, please, I know like there's a few of your leaders who've benefited from this administration, but I doubt whether these benefits are trickling down to people, because those three counties pia kumekuwa na a lot of corruption pia issues, kumekuwa na they've also had issues, and Gen Z sasa wanaanza kufika counties. Unajua right now the priority is dealing with Ruto, but slowly this movement is now starting in the counties, because nilisikia express moja ya coast, and it's going to very, very intricate details about issues happening within the counties, laws that counties are passing na nini. So these things are, like, this Kenya is not going to be the same again, and at that point, Mike, maybe talk to the Wahenga
walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. Let's wrap this puppy up. Mika kadhe.
Anyway, today I will not comment about your favorite statements, but I want to say,
nanga is cloth.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes,
a cloth.
Hata shida ikuangi nanga.
kutia.
Na kurap.
Naomba umalize. Kwa hisani yako.
Hizi tutapetition zitolewe kama ile yenye alikuwa anafanyanga ile yenye Ruth alifukuza kwa show. Ile
Ruth aliban.
Yeah. Anyway,
Itarudi ya cherry being popped.
Well, anyway, let me finish up. Unajua tumepiga.
That's what
You know, we need to be politically correct.
Bandiora tuzimia stima remotely. So
Ruth is not here.
no,
Cherries are popped.
Wait, time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Time. Anyway, want to thank listeners, wapenzi wachangiaji, as it's been a good conversation, and thank you. And anybody who has been feeling some type of way about the political situation in both countries, it's like, I know we are talking about Kenya, and I know most people, especially black, if you're a black person, it doesn't matter what your political world feels like. Right now, me, originally, I'm a Democrat, but me chapa Democrats mangumi sana, but I'm still going to vote Democrat. I don't care. Why? Because hakuna vile project 2025 naweza kubali ingie in the midst. We will fix the Democratic Party later. For now, if you're a Democrat, if you're black, let me be racist. Kwani, if you're black and
make sure you register to vote and
you're thinking to vote that other party,
shauri yako.
If you think I'm just saying it, go online, go Google Project 2025, go through it, read it, and then ask yourself, as a parent, or somebody who wants to have children, or somebody who wants to own business here, or somebody who wants to earn a living, or that? Just you, if you want to live with the kind of country that document explains. And if you think it's just a document, look at Florida and Texas and Mississippi. Look at the laws that they've started implementing right now. There are laws that are pulling out from them. And we have seen snippets of it. People being put above the law. Laws that have been there for quite long being repealed by a court of people who are appointed for life, and they don't hide their corruption. So it's not that it's just a document. It's something that is already being implemented at state level as a pilot, and now they're ready to put it on federal level. So, if you plan to live in this country, vote Democrat. Hiyo tutajipangia mbele. Now, if you think you're going to escape and go to Kenya, now unaona bado jenzi. Na unachekelea jenzi unasema hii ni kelele. Unawaambia wanafaa kunegotiate. Sijui it's done. And this is supposed to end. Guess what? You'll have nowhere to run. Labda uende Haiti. Ukeuko na polisi wa Kenya. That is the only option you have. So, at this point, tough decisions, but both your countries need you. Have a wonderful night.
What? That's almost I've had Mika saying, I don't know how long. But yeah, with that said, thank you to my fans, our listeners, to our caller, Professor. I think we definitely need him in the studio. And by the way, he did say he's ready. Prof said he's ready to come into the studio whenever we are ready. So we'll arrange Ali Kazi Kwako. And to folks within the DMV, outside the DMV, around the DMV, close to the DMV, don't forget, again, we are occupying IMF. It's from 12:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. And that's at 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue,
IMF HQ2,
which is basically a stone's throw from the White House. So if you get to the White House and then you just go, you'll get us. You'll find us over there. So we're going to be in place.
Ruto must go.
Yes. Utasikia tu watu wakichant. And at that point, you just come. So I would advise ukuje na public transportation, because parking around there sometimes can be a little bit tricky. But you never know. Saa zingine you can get lucky. Ali, do we have, I think we have a do we have this posted somewhere that somebody
Yes.
who is not part of any grouping or not part of the Ruto Must Go, how would they get to this information?
No, you can go to our One Mic Show Instagram and Facebook pages. Have all this information in the stories and on the timelines. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see the details of how to get to of how to get to DC, of how to get to IMF HQ2. Yeah, and hapa Kenyan Diaspora pia nakuambia Omosh is about to apologize. Here we go. So I don't know, like.
As a man, I ain't apologizing for so and I don't need to be Kenyan Jewed out or into the show. So Kenyan Jew, you can see me at IMF. How about that? And with that said, again, I appreciate our fans, our people, the banter, the back and forth. It's you guys who keep us honest and who keep us going. But where we are with the direction that our countries, both here domestically and Kenya, are going, we need to be the change that we want and be a participant in the change. This is an election year for the US, and as Mika has alluded to, if you vote a different way, what you see and what you get will be because of what you did. Vote. Make sure you participate and vote right. And just think of it this way: the last time that 45 was in office, the first people he came for were immigrants. It's not about to change. It will be the same old script, and this time, since he knows all the tricks that had been put out there and he's already worked judges and whatever in place, things will be tougher to get out of. And so if you vote like you think that you know what time it is, which is on his side, shauri yako. You are the one who's going to get affected with your family and your descendants. So think of it that way. This is one of those. And as for Kenya and the direction that it's headed in, we out here in the diaspora need to put our 68 cents in and make sure that we participate, whether it's with agitation, whether it's demonstrating, with our finances, with helping our folks who are on the ground, because as you've seen, folks are being killed, they're being murdered, there's so many things that are happening. And to be honest, the dark days of one party state, aka Moi, or a chap who was sitting in power and didn't want to give it up, that's where we are right now. Typical African leader. We want to make sure that that's not what the legacy we're leaving for our kids and for the grandkids. Because trust me, this is not the Kenya that we want. So with that said, see you guys next week. And those in town, tutawaona kesho. I'll see you.
All right, asante sana DJ Mosh Fire. And just a reminder again, the protest is tomorrow at IMF HQ2 at 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's tomorrow, Saturday, the 20th of July, from 12:30 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The protest is to demand that the IMF bear responsibility for the 50-plus deaths following demos to reject the IMF-inspired Kenyan Finance Bill of 2024. So I hope to see you all out tomorrow. And to those who cannot make it, please share the flyer. Find the flyer on the One Mic Show Facebook page. Please share it with people who are with people who are out here in the East Coast. And then I'm also being reminded by someone here that Ruto was supposed to receive a Nobel Prize for Haiti. Plus, the U.S. wants to build a military base. U.S. wants to build a military base in Kenya. So yeah. So that's the situation we're in. That's what we have. And Washeke here was saying the fine is $300 each. So for those who don't show up, or if you know you're planning not to show up, you better just start cash upping me right about now, because we will be coming back here next year to review who showed up and who didn't show up, and whether the fines were paid.
Next year?
Yeah.
Next year?
No, next week. Yeah. We'll be here next week.
Tumia Washeke kashapia show Nazel.
Oh, aeke huko.
Aeke huko.
Okay, sawa. Good idea.
Aya. Well, this was another amazing show. Na kwa yoyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule. Operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, unamkumbusha ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Si chagui, si kagui na si bagui. Kwaherini.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until next week.